It's time for today's face-off on Fox Soul. Challengers Quanell X and Big Angry Adams, ready to go blow by blow on those hot topics. Face-off on Fox Soul starts right now. In this round, here's Quanell X.
What the hell did we just watch?
A little hoedown. A little hoedown on that gin and that juice.
That looks like some.
Let me get some of this vodka.
That looks like some old white folk fall down, slow down, get down, and please be put down. They are jamming Snoop Dogg's gin and juice. Did you hear the lyrics? Smoking on that endo, sipping on that gin and juice.
You don't know nothing about smoking on that endo.
Them white folks there don't either.
How do you know?
Did you see that?
How do you know?
They had absolutely no rhythm. They were so offbeat, they made a mockery of Snoop Dogg's legendary hip-hop song. In fact, it looks like they obviously love our rhythm, but they love to give us the blues, too. That is ridiculous, what I just saw. Look, man, that is a crime against Snoop Dogg. They should apologize to the hip-hop community. Where you find them old white folk from? Was that West Virginia, backwoods of Indiana, Kentucky? In fact, they look like you.
Yeah, that was my cousins.
I know it.
That was my aunt and my uncle and my in-laws, all in one little family right there.
Betsy Jean, Mamie Joe,
what I love in America,
Billy Bob.
and I love it. I love 2024 America, where you can just, and it's been going on for what, this little tete-a-tete for 8-9 years, where you can say the most crazy, bigoted stuff, right? And then you say, oh, no, but it's not racist because I'm black and I can't be racist, right? That's your whole mathematics. That's your whole equation, and it's nonsense. These people, this is multiculturalism at their finest. They were taking a legendary hip-hop artist. You know, I would put him in the top 5, especially his freshman debut with Dre, The Chronic, and his follow-up, Doggy Style. I think 2 of the best rap albums ever made, that he was integral to both of them. You probably don't know nothing about him because you get in your car and you listen to like Kenny G and some nonsense. Harry Connick Jr. was what I heard you banging last time I was in your ride. But I mean, let's be real, MAGA lover. But you're talking about the people voting for the same guy you are.
That was embarrassing.
No, that was not embarrassing.
And the song you heard in my vehicle was the song Harry Connick Jr. stole from a black artist.
Okay, so why you giving him the royalties?
When you look at this madness, this looks like a bunch of white folks in rural America.
Why you gotta whisper white folk?
Grew up riding that short yellow bus, licking the window panes in the back of the bus.
Okay, first
That's
off,
exactly what that looked like right there.
It looked like,
I mean, that looks like a retirement home with no supervision.
Good, clean, multicultural fun is what it was.
Man, did you see that?
Right? They had some cold beer. They had some Snoop Dogg. They had some live music. They had the whole collective.
I bet they smell like tobacco,
they were doing
snuff,
a little line dancing. Little line dancing. Come on, man. Come on, you can't do the electric slide, a little shuffle.
Brother Snoop, shuffle. They owe you an apology, Brother Snoop.
Come on, man.
That is a shame.
And they breaking it on down.
Man, they look like special needs children.
Listening to those hits.
They look like old special needs folks who need some real help getting them to go to lunch.
They are about to go back, and somebody's going to get blown back. It is going to be a wonderful evening for some nice suburban people.
You know, I'll be honest with you.
And hopefully they have a chronic.
I thought it was a mental health hospital at first.
No, you didn't.
I thought they might some mental health patient had escaped to the nightclub or something like that. That is
merely
Snoop Dogg's gin and juice.
When this
got my mind on my money and my money on my mind.
And our producer decided.
They don't know what the hell they even listening to.
You and Matt got together and decided, let's make fun of white people. What is it, YT now? Or WYPIPO?
I'm not making fun of them.
That's all you're doing. There's
that
nothing
like
wrong.
Something from the Tales of the Crypt.
Snoop probably getting royalties.
Brother.
A black man's getting paid.
From that?
And you are from every little thing.
I'm sure
if
one Negro had walked up in that dance celebration, they probably would have hung him from the microphone up in there.
Okay.
Or they probably would have whooped him thinking about Mississippi.
You know
Let me tell you
if
something.
a black man would have walked in that bar, he'd have probably left at 2 a.m. with 2 beers and 2 honeys, one on each arm, one in each hand, and went back to
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that.
Maybe he just got
because
him to
when
pick up
white
back.
women get that liquor in them, they do want that African experience.
You know,
when they get that liquor in them, they do gravitate to that natural desire.
When you get,
of black coffee with sugar and cream.
When you get out of these urban hellscapes and you get out to real America are far more multicultural and diverse than big city lefties want to give them the belief. Hey, that was diversity. So why would they be listening to gin and juice?
Because they drunk, throwed off crazy, and probably some old special needs retirement folk
you know what?
Who don't know what the hell's going on or what they even listening to.
They probably grew up on the rap music when rap kicked off.
Grew up on rap music, go vote for Trump, and hate everything dealing with affirmative action or reparations. Grew up on rap music and say build more prisons and stop giving money to programs to benefit single moms and single mothers with child care. I'm sure they did grow up on rap music and be the first ones to vote for 2025 agenda that's totally against the rise of interest for people of color.
I mean, I guess it's a new season, so maybe new audience, you're going to tell these tales, right? There are plenty of hip-hop stars that have already come out and said they're supporting Trump, right? There are plenty of people.
I'm not knocking them
brothers.
brothers.
There are plenty of people at this table.
I'm not knocking them brothers.
There's one person.
They got a right to support whomsoever they choose.
Well, but there's one person at this table, and it's not Whitey, that is a MAGA cap wearing Trump supporter. That's you.
First of all, Trump is not a white man. That's the mistake that you make. Trump is not a white man.
You're the one that brought up Trump.
Let me make it clear to you. Trump got multiple baby mamas.
Okay.
He got a mugshot. He got 34 felony convictions. He got a sneaker line with his face on it, and he's selling Bibles. That's a Negro. That ain't no white boy. That is a Negro if you ever seen one.
That argument.
Trump is the blackest white man that we can see right now.
What a horrible,
the man got 34 convictions, multiple baby mamas. The man sitting around here with a sneaker line with his face on him, you would think he's the white Kanye West.
So this started off with you being bigoted towards white people.
I'm not being bigoted towards white people.
You being bigoted towards black people.
I'm just telling the truth.
What a horrible indictment of black men for you to say
Trump is
that
the whitest Negro
baby
you gonna find.
Okay, so why were you making fun of those white people for supporting Trump?
I wasn't making fun of them. I was telling the truth.
Do you not even remember what you were saying?
I was telling the truth about it.
Look,
I wasn't making fun of them. I was telling the truth.
Celebrating multicultural America.
No,
they were line dancing.
Exposing that lie.
What on earth
that's
more
multicultural
than line dancing
white folks
to gin and juice?
Obviously escaped the mental health hospital and didn't know what the hell they were and what the hell they was doing.
They were having a good old time. What do you just don't want people to have fun.
You dance just like them.
You know what?
You ain't got no rhythm.
You don't benefit unless there's racial strife.
Oh, will you stop?
That's all. Come together right now.
Jesus Christ.
Over me.
The 11-year-old boy charged in connection with the death of 8-year-old Noah Bush has been sentenced.
Today was probably one of the hardest days of my life. This isn't just this.
Noah disappeared May 15th in Jessup, Georgia. He was found dead the next day in a construction pit full of water. The Wayne County Sheriff's Office initially ruled his death accidental, and that sparked weeks of protests in the community.
And nearly 2 months after his death, a 10-year-old and an 11-year-old were charged. A hearing was held today for that 11-year-old.
Riley Phillips has more now from the hearing and reaction from Noah's family.
It was an emotional day. Noah's family and their lawyers were visibly upset leaving the courtroom. The 11-year-old was sentenced to 2 years in a juvenile detention facility.
In this round, here's Charles Big Angry Adams.
Well, I think that's absolutely disgusting, Quanell. I think it's disgusting that the mechanism of the law in Georgia, according to prosecutors, was that 2 years was the maximum. But 2 years was only the maximum because of the charges they chose to bring, which is involuntary manslaughter as opposed to murder. And had they brought murder, there was the possibility of holding this child through until they reached their majority, the adult age. So through, I believe in Georgia, it's 18. So they could have experienced a much, much longer period of detention. This was a sickening case where two older kids, not much older, but older, drowned a child, killed him, just out of pure maliciousness. Whether or not they intended the murder, if you hold someone's head underwater, then you know what you're doing. And I think the family was appropriately outraged and filled with anguish. And I think the prosecutors failed that community, they failed that young black man, and they failed a young black child, and they failed his family. It's disgusting.
You know, let us first extend our condolences to the victim's mother and the victim's family in this case. They have a right to be angry. They have a right to be outraged. They're severely traumatized beyond words. And as a father, I would hope and pray that I never have to live a day in my life that they're living in daily right now. But Charles, I am not an advocate for sending 11-year-old children to prison. But I would be very curious to know what were the circumstances of that young child's home life. What was the home environment like? What are the parents like? In fact, I would have also liked to see the entire family drug tested to see if those children live in a drug-infested environment to where they themselves may have been involved in catching hold of some drugs, etc. We just don't know. But I assure you, the prosecutors in this case, I do not believe would have did this deal for this little 11-year-old boy had there not been some serious extenuating circumstances based on the home life. I believe what Jesus Christ teaches, children can be redeemed, children can be reformed, they can be rehabilitated, but a long, extensive prison sentence in this case, I know it's a terrible tragedy, but putting that 11-year-old kid away for many years doesn't bring the other child back.
Let me throw you a curveball that you don't find in the reporting, which obscures these children's, the 10 and 11-year-olds' identity, because they don't report. You know, it is illegal sometimes to, in most news agencies won't, to give specifics about child criminals. But here's a curveball that might change your perspective, and I'd like to hear how it changes it, because I do think that a lot of times your perspective is defined by external, not internal factors. It is apparently that these were two young white children who did the killing, and that the parents of young Noah believe that the murder was racially motivated because of flags that the parents have allegedly flown in the past and attitudes of the parents. So let's say you found out, Quanell, that in fact Noah Bush was murdered by a young 8-year-old African American was murdered by a 10 and 11-year-old white kids who murdered him because of the color of his skin. Don't you think he should get more than 2 years for that? Don't you think your butt should rot in jail for as long as legally possible? Don't you think you should have been charged for murder? And you know what, maybe go see if the parents did anything to contribute to that and hold them to account too. It's disgusting, it's murder, and you shouldn't be influenced in any way by the race of the actors, but by the motives of the actors and their actions, and it's just disgusting, Quanell. Lock those kids up.
Now, since you were the one that brought race into this discussion.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And because
I dug deep. I dug beyond what the packets we were handed.
Brought us some additional information.
Okay.
Let me say this to you, Charles. Those two little white children who were living, obviously, in a house of racial hatred, was living in a house where Confederate flags were flying and being,
that's the rumor.
So then obviously if they lived in such a racial hatred environment, that means that those two little white children were programmed with hate, and they never had a choice whether they was choosing to be or not to be. Their dirty, low-down, racist parents are the ones who programmed them that way. And if they committed this act to this little black child based on skin color, it's the parents who are the real trigger people in this case. The children may be the weapon, but the bullet and the trigger was the parents. So they're the ones who should get the long prison sentence. Those two little white children can be rehabilitated. They can be reformed through extensive mental health counseling and therapy.
You think
and
they're going to get that in juvenile?
But the parents.
You think they're going to get that in Georgia juvenile?
If it's true, the parents are the ones who should be locked up and sent to prison.
Okay, but here's the question: what's the crime?
So my perspective didn't change.
Unless it's because you got called out on this television show.
No, but I just whooped you with some straight facts.
But here's a straight fact. There's not a crime in Georgia unless the parents conspired with them to commit the murder. The parents are free to be filled with racialized hatred. Just like you're free to be a bigot, they're free to be a bigot.
The parents are facing charges also.
Okay.
Now, to what degree, I don't know.
It's actually not the parents.
Maybe it's a civil penalty or something like that. I don't know.
They are being sued. but it's the parents of the other child, the 10-year-old, that I believe was supervising the children, that is, she's facing a charge, but no one is facing the charge of murder. And initially,
but you brought up a valid point too, though.
The children weren't even charged.
But you brought up a valid point.
I know
though.
I did. That's why I'm on the show.
In these juvenile cases, you rarely ever get all of the facts because judges often put gag orders on these type of cases involving juvenile children. But man, obviously,
yeah, you got to do more time for murder than 2 years.
The parents, but Charles, I think the parents were the real murderers in this case.
But I don't disagree. You know, oftentimes, there are times when the apple falls far from the tree. Perfectly wonderful
because
people.
most children don't hate.
Right, hold on.
They are taught hate from inside the home.
Most good people raise good people. But it does occasion where it's the opposite. But most of the time, if you're filled with a criminality, I saw this as a judge, right? When a kid would make a mistake, you would have parents come in front of my bench who were upset with that kid or upset with the government trying to defend their kid. They were emotional.
But it's really the parents that should have been punished.
Bad parents don't care.
And they're
bad
often not
parents
punished.
fill them up.
And they're often not
but
punished.
They don't commit a crime.
But
this
the
kid should be
children
locked
are punished
up.
and not the
2 years
parents.
is ridiculous. I stand with Noah's parents. Ring the bell off. Come on.
In today's Face-Off, up.
Charles, this past weekend, I had something sent to me via social media on Facebook and Instagram about a local football program, not necessarily local, but out of Dallas, DeSoto area in Dallas, Texas, in DeSoto, Texas. A football program called DEA. And this is a
like the Drug Enforcement Administration?
Well, they're called Dragons Elite Academy. But DEA is a program I believe was founded by a very good brother named Courtney Jackson. I think he's affiliated with the program. And Courtney Jackson has done so much for youth sports, for black, in particular, minority athletes all across the state of Texas. Okay. And so when I saw this, I know this cannot be a reflection of him. This cannot be a reflection of anything he would support. But when you look at this picture, and can we show that picture? You got these 11-year-old football players standing there and putting up FU signs with the words F-U-C-K, havoc. That is not a reflection of what we want our young black men and young men to be, period. We're losing far too many young African-American youth to the streets, to leaving and skipping school, to dying in the community. And we've even seen now in youth sports, coaches attacking each other. We've seen in youth sports in Texas, coaches attacking referees. We've seen right here in Texas, just a few months ago, we had a young man that was found guilty for killing another father at a football game in Fort Bend County, Texas. Aqib Talib brother, prominent soon-to-be Hall of Fame football player, Aqib Talib. His brother was just recently convicted for killing another coach at a game down in the Dallas area. Why? There needs to be a governing body to clean this foolishness up. The same way that the state of Texas has the UIL to govern youth sports in schools, there needs to be something to govern youth sports involving children.
I will tell you, the only thing I find offensive about this is the offensive language and the hand gestures. They are, you know, when you talk about youth sports, I think it's tacky to use the F word. I think there's no reason for them to be flipping the bird. I don't even know how they're going to blur it out enough for our audience to see it, because these are clearly, you know, team produced or parent produced with teams. They got the individual players. When I read, because you had to dig deep because it's not a news story, I read that those are 11-year-old, very large 11-year-olds, but they're 11-year-old children who they have mean mugging to make them look much older. And we do have a culture in America where law enforcement oftentimes will treat young black kids as far older than they are, right? But there's clearly an effort here to make these 11-year-olds look older, to engage in behaviors that aren't appropriate for 11-year-olds. And I think it's very tacky for an organization, but I will say this.
It's fostering a mindset in our community that's leading to prison, that's leading to high dropout rates, that's leading to even killing. Why do you think we got some youth coaches being charged with killing and shooting and other coaches on the
nothing
field.
new. When I was going to Harvard in Massachusetts,
We got parents fighting at these games.
In Massachusetts, you had a man beat another dad to death at a youth hockey game, and so this is 24 years
Youth
ago.
sports.
There are always going to be people that act badly, but with times it's very well established that if you have your kids involved in extracurriculars, they are far more likely to succeed in academic arenas and in the game of life.
But what does it say about the parents
I know,
who would
I
allow
agree.
their children to put
look.
something like that on and come to the game and take this picture and promote it? The coaches of this particular team should be banned from the league.
That's going too far.
Any coach that supported this, any coach that let these boys wear that should be banned. And any parent that participated in this should be expelled from the league also.
They absolutely shouldn't be allowed to wear this at a league game of any sort. I think it's tacky. I think that whatever the league is should address it. But banning people, we want more kids participating in stuff. Now, they should have said destroy Havoc or beat it. Unfortunately, what I read, it looks like they won the game sloppily.
These coaches are the F-ups of the day, the F-ups of the week, the F-ups of the year, and the parents who participated also.
One year when my son was playing, there was an assistant coach that was just awful, and he was very ugly to the kids. We're talking 9-year-old kids, right? And I'll go to all my kids' stuff, and I wasn't coaching, but I said someday a coach said, "Hey, this guy's out of control, maybe," and the coach got snippy with me. And well, you want to let your kid play. That coach lost his cool, ran out onto the field during a game 2 weeks later, grabbed his son by his face mask and drug him off the field. He got thrown out of the league. That poor kid was sobbing, and I was like, well, see, coach? Those are the kind of coaches we need to be worried about. Not an ugly T-shirt.
Participating in youth
No,
sports.
that's ridiculous. Any parent or coach that is getting their kids to all these practices and keeping them involved is a good thing. This just shouldn't be allowed. The only thing shouldn't be allowed is the F word.
The kids that are suffering the most don't look like you. That's why you think like that.
That's it for the Face Off on Fox Soul. We'll catch you next time.